you are going to be a busy man. We were just talking in the break. I dubbed thee the second hardest working man in Indiana, in the state of Indiana media, behind our next guest, Kurt or Kyle Neddenrep, rather. I always say that he, just because the dude covers, there's how many high schools are there in Indiana? 360?
Something along those lines. Yeah, it's
no, he doesn't cover every single one of them, but let me tell you, he does a damn good job of covering a high percentage of them in one way or another. Just keeping up with Indianapolis high school is tough, as I know you cover Fort Wayne High School, which is a job in and of itself. So, but I don't want to get too far off the topic. Last night, Indiana basketball taking on a Morehead State team that I'm not saying should have been an easy win, because today in college basketball, there may be lopsided scores, but I'm never going to say anything's an easy win, just because we've seen college basketball has really risen the tide of the waters equaling and leveling out across the sport with the transfer portal. So, but last night's game was way too much exciting than Indiana fans wanted or expected, or that there should have been. A very, very poor first half of play, Dylan, especially from Indiana starters. They combined, I thought it was 14, but Todd corrected me, said they combined for 12 first half points.
Yeah.
12.
No, I mean, I said it at halftime. Look, Anthony Walker saved IU last night. If Anthony Walker had not played the way he did, that game would have been not only would IU have lost, they would have gotten blown out. Like it was incredible.
They were on their way. They were on their way to getting blown out. They were down 15.
Yes, and no, it was the Anthony Walker show. 18 points and 9 rebounds, and Mike Woodson said it, the best game he's played at Indiana, the best game he's played, period, for about 3 years now.
A career high for him.
Yeah, and a career high that was set in December of 2020. That tells you how long he's been around college basketball. But yes, it was not a good effort. Yeah, I think what we saw was, you said no win should be easy, of course, but Indiana played the way Indiana should have played for the final 8 minutes of the game, right? They went on a 20-2 run, and it didn't look like they really broke a sweat doing it, right? Like it didn't look like it was that difficult for them to pull off. It looked like they basically said, okay, well, I guess we got to start playing now, and they did, and they won. That's not how you want to play basketball, though. It's not that, and I mean, they said the right things after the game about how that shouldn't happen. Like they shouldn't come out flat like that. They shouldn't need to do that. And Anthony Walker said it won't happen again. Trust me. And Anthony Walker. I think Anthony Walker is a more important leader on this team than people realize. Despite the fact that this is his first year here and he's not a starter, he seems like a pretty important voice in that locker room. So my guess is that he is going to light a fire under some people last night and today. And you would like to think they come out with a better effort against North Alabama tomorrow. A North Alabama team is on a very similar level to Morehead State. They played those two teams actually played a week and a half ago, and I think Morehead State won by 7 or 8, something like that. So Indiana will be on upset alert again tomorrow if it comes out flat again. So they have an opportunity tomorrow on short rest to turn around and say basically, hey, that was a fluke on Tuesday. Let's go out and prove that we actually have improved and we can play some basketball here.
I'm looking at the first half stats right now, and
it's brutal. It's brutal.
I don't even know. I'm like, how is this possible? 0, Kel'el Ware, 0 points, 0 for 3 from the field. He did have 3 rebounds, an assist, and a foul in 16 minutes of play. So played most of the 3/4 of the first half. Gabe Cupps, pretty much zeros across the board. We'll get into him. Todd Leary just says right now he's the guy that just brings the ball up to half court, and then he's no longer a part of the offense. Yeah. And there's a lot of truth to that. Malik Renew, 4 points. He was Indiana's second leading scorer as starters go. He did take 3 shots, hitting 2 of those. He had 6 rebounds in the first half.
Yeah.
That's an important number there in the 12 minutes that he played. So he didn't play as long. Mackenzie Mbako, 2 points, 0 of 5 from the field in the first half. He was 2 of 2 at the free throw line in his 12 minutes. And Trey Galloway, coming off of that career performance against Kansas, goes 3 for 6, 6 points, 0 for 2 from the free throw line. That is a serious problem. He is shooting 50% from the year. For the year from the free throw line. And this is a guy that was supposed to be one of Indiana's 3-point shooters, and you can't hit at the free throw line. That's a worry. He played 18 first half minutes, and he had 2 turnovers along with those 6 points. And as a matter of fact, Indiana only with 5 total turnovers last night, 1 in the second half.
They didn't get the ball.
First and a half.
They didn't get the ball very much.
This is the craziest stat line I've ever seen in my life. And let's see, Sparks 0, Gunn had 2, and Caleb Banks had 3 first half points. But Anthony Walker, in just 8 minutes of play, he scores 8 points. Very efficient outing, 4 of 7. He was 0 of 2 at the free throw line. That's sad to see there again, because Indiana goes 3 for 9, 33% at the charity stripe in the first half.
Oh.
I mean, it's like they were sleepwalking, and you don't have an excuse to ever be that bad. They didn't. You cannot use the excuse of coming off of this Kansas game as a hangover. They lost the game, and I understand that sucked for them, but you didn't lose a game that you got screwed out of. You didn't lose a game that you played your best. So there's nothing. To me, you can only have a hangover when you go all out, you give everything, and you do about everything as right as you can, and then you lose. That's hard to take. But they didn't play well. They turned the ball over too much against Kansas and missed too many free throws. Very simple math. And so there's no excuse for them having a hangover or coming out flat, whatever you want to call it. I don't ever get that. It's the lights are on, the people are in there, you're going through warm-ups. How does it, if you've got to get your mind in that same position, I think.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing is it obviously did have something to do with the Kansas game. It was, I think what it was they didn't play their best against Kansas, but they put so much emotion into that game coming off of the Auburn game. It was like, hey, we're gonna throw everything we have into this Kansas game. We're going to go all out for it. And yeah, they didn't play their best, but the starters all played, or well, everyone except Malik Renew, because he was in foul trouble. The starters all played like 35, 38 minutes in that game. So it was one of those things where there was an emotional hangover. And I do think that was part of it. And I mean, Bruce Weber, who was calling the game on the Big Ten Network, said it at the outset of the game. He was like, look, the crowd is not as into this game as it was on Saturday. Right at the outset, he said that. He said it was crazy in here on Saturday. It's pretty muted right now. And so I think that was part of it, is the crowd wasn't there to get IU jazzed up at the beginning of the game.
No students.
No students. It was a smaller crowd. I was not there personally, but the rafters were probably pretty empty, would be my guess, right?
I wasn't there either, I have to admit.
Okay, so yeah, you could just kind of tell that the crowd wasn't as into it. The players weren't as into it. I mean, that's a problem. Like it's a problem that the players, they needed that kind of boost from the crowd to get going. You should be able to get the energy yourself, and that I think is kind of an underrated thing, and we can get into this more. You said you wanted to talk about Gabe Cupps. That is an underrated thing that IU misses with Xavier Johnson. Xavier Johnson is an emotional leader on the floor for this team. He is a guy that when you need a little bit of emotion or someone who's going to attack, he's going to do it. He's going to give you a little bit of a boost. And not having him out there, there's not really a guy that does that for you, I don't think. Trey Galloway was that guy on Saturday, but he's not usually that guy. And so someone needs to step up. And Anthony Walker tried. Good for Anthony Walker. Like, he came into the game. You said he only played 8 minutes in the first half. Every single minute he was on that floor, he was giving IU a spark. And they did it again in the second half. And there was a reason. Good on Mike Woodson for realizing that Anthony Walker was doing that and playing him 15 minutes in the second half. He deserved every single one of those minutes and more, because he was the guy that was giving IU a spark when he was on the court. So they need to find someone to do that consistently. I don't think it can be the third guy off your bench. One of the starters needs to do it. It probably needs to be Trey Galloway until Xavier Johnson comes back. But that's something that this team is missing with X out.
And it really makes me laugh every time I see people say they're better off with X, the offense runs better with X, yada, yada, yada. You don't know what you're talking about. You are missing probably the most athletic defender on the team with him, just in that alone. That doesn't include the fact that as the point guard, he's also able to score. He is quick enough to get by guys to get to the rim. His quickness with the ball causes problems. People say, oh, he turns the ball over. He doesn't turn the ball over any more than anybody else. But when you do turn a ball over, like Todd Leary was pointing out last night, if you have the ball in your hands that much, you're going to turn the ball over some, especially when you're really trying to push it. Anybody can have 0 turnovers when you come up the floor and never touch the ball again after half the court line. And I'm not blaming Gabe Cupps for that. He's just not an integrated part of this offense. And you can look at the shots that he doesn't take, I should say. You cannot have a position as important as the point guard and just get no scoring out of him, nothing. And it's not, again, this is not on Gabe Cupps. He's being thrust in a position he wasn't expecting. But last night was a game where someone like him could step up, could try to start doing something, because you know what? He started a lot of games now, and you're playing Morehead State. Indiana, the team needed a spark. Be that guy. Try to be that guy without forcing. But thank goodness for Indiana fans that Anthony Walker did. He was a man on a mission, but he's always been the best guy off the bench for Indiana this year.
Yeah, no, he absolutely has. Like he's a guy who's really quick. He plays very, very hard. That someone's got to figure out how to defend that spin move that he does. No one has figured out how to defend that yet. Really good for him. He has like a move that you can't stop, basically. And that 3 that he hit was enormous for Indiana. It was the only 3 that he's made the entire year, and that thing looked about as pure as you could ask for. It was the only 3 Indiana made all night by someone other than Trey Galloway. They went 3 for 16. Galloway made 2. Anthony Walker made that 1, and Galloway's were huge. But no, to go back to Gabe Cupps for a second, I do think that he at least made an effort to get in the scoring column last night. I think he realized that they needed him to be a little bit more aggressive. He took a 3-pointer that missed. He took a 18-foot jumper that missed. He had that nice drive to the rim where he finished around the rim like that. I don't think that he is incapable of scoring. I think that he just thinks that, or maybe this is just kind of a freshman mentality where he is deferring to the guys around him because he's the freshman point guard and it's his job to distribute, right? And that it can't be that. He needs to be a guy that can score for them at least a little bit. You can't be playing 4-on-5 out there offensively. And you're right about Xavier Johnson. You can't have too many guys on a team that can get their own shot off the dribble. IU doesn't have a lot of guys who can get their own shot off the dribble. Trey Galloway can every once in a while. That's good for him. But X is the guy who usually can do it. And when you have someone who can get their own shot off the dribble, that's how you create open threes. That's why IU doesn't take many 3-pointers, because they don't have a ton of guys in the backcourt who can get their own shot. So then they don't have defenses collapsing and you don't have kickouts. That's why they don't take many threes. In addition to the fact they don't make many threes, they don't take many because of that. They don't have kickouts, which is how a lot of teams get a lot of their threes. So, yeah, Gabe Cupps needs to be more aggressive. I think Mike Woodson is telling him that. And he saw the light turn on a little bit last night. He just didn't make – like, he could have had 8, 10, 12 points last night. He just didn't make any of the good shots that he took. Part of it, I think, is because he's been playing a lot of minutes. I think his legs are a little bit tired as a freshman. and his shot is flat. Like we heard in high school that he was a really good shooter, and I think he will be. His shot is flat right now, and it's affecting its ability to go in the hoop. We saw it last year. I saw it last year with Fletcher Lawyer at Purdue. His shot got really flat at the end of the year, and he wasn't shooting a good percentage, and that was why. And so I think that Gabe Cupps might be suffering from that a little bit too.